All right. Hey, everybody. We're back with another fun edition of Top Trades Live. I'm here with Enrique. Enrique, how are things out west?
Good, good. I actually moved from the desert to I'm right across from the Phoenix Suns arena. The first game of the season is tomorrow, and my Suns are actually supposed to stink. So to me, it's more important that you go to the first game. But I guess as a Baltimore fan, you kind of always feel that way, right? The teams are going to
Yeah,
suck.
I know. It's been a long year for us already. Who do you have?
Yeah.
Who do you have in the World Series? Canada or America?
Oh man, I guess I got to go with the Dodgers. That's a tough call. I used to kind of be a Dodgers fan back in the day. I mean, I've always been Yankees first, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, Dodgers look pretty unstoppable. So I kind of always want the underdog to win, but this
Yeah.
is probably the most torn I've been. Not in terms of who will win, but in terms of who I want to win. But I'm going to go with the Dodgers will win it. So.
Is John Olerud still at first base for Toronto, or is he?
Yeah, I don't know. I always remember his batting helmet was always what
Yeah, the
he was the
no
guy that
ears. Just the
yeah.
yeah.
I
That was
think
the way to go.
if I recall correctly, and people are just going to be tuning out rapidly now. I feel like
Everybody's
Olerud actually played for the Yankees for a hot minute at the end of his career. Yeah, Olerud played for the Yankees for like a half a season or something. Uh, I remember that now.
And
So
that was what?
anyway.
That was 93 when the Blue Jays beat the Braves, or was it?
Yeah, they won those two championships, right?
Yeah.
93. Well, it was 92, 93. Oh, you know, let me see here. Yeah, 92, 93. And Olerud was with the Yankees in 2004. So, and he was with the Mariners. He was apparently for like 4 years. Look at
There
that.
we go.
New York Met, too. Yeah,
All right, everybody. So place your bets.
exactly.
Dodgers in four. How about that? We'll go with that. And that's it. That's it for top trades today. We won't do any
Yeah,
marks.
exactly. It's all sports betting. This is the new bar stool, except we're a lot skinnier than half those guys.
And I don't know anything about sports. I just sort of pull up random knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm just going to go off this one thing. I don't know how many people on here have ever watched Barstool, but like half their guys, they're all in their 20s or 30s, and half of them are like morbidly obese. I'm like scared. I'm like, don't eat another cheeseburger, bro. It's like, anyway. Uh,
Well, the markets have been pretty exciting too. Not just football and baseball playoffs and all that good stuff. We've seen some resets. We're seeing a reset today. I think that's the big story today. We're seeing a reset in precious metals. Finally, we've been talking about it. We knew it was coming. It was just a matter of not if but when. And now we're seeing it, and gold and silver rolling over hard. The auxiliary precious metals rolling over hard. The miners are rolling over hard right now. And again, we have to talk time frames. We're not bearish precious metals long term, far from it. But when the market gets overheated like this and the trend gets stretched, then you're going to have a sudden drop in there somewhere. And it looks like that's beginning to play out today. I'll pull up the gold chart. We can start talking about it, but we're getting that big red candle that we've been waiting for.
yeah.
We kind of got a sneak peek of it on Friday, and we got a recovery on Monday. But gold futures are down almost 5.5% here, back toward 4,100. Oh my God, where they were back on
A
Tuesday
week
morning
ago.
of
Yeah, I was
last
going to
week.
say exactly. Um,
So where do you see this landing? We've been talking about this a lot. There's some obvious spots here, but I feel like this is just the start of a bigger pullback. In
So it's funny, and I think on these calls we're joined by people that have been with us for a long time and people who've just joined. But the people who've been with us for a long time, we always say the same things over and over because the markets never change. Physics still matter. Overbought, extreme overbought is still extreme overbought. Um, I was throwing up weekly RSI charts of both gold and silver last week, and they were at all-time highs. I mean, gold going back to the 70s, because prior to 1970, you don't really, that was when it really mattered. And I guess the way I would explain it, the way to think about gold, and this is true of a lot of stocks, but in momentum stocks, and gold's a momentum vehicle right now.
Yeah.
By definition, anything that goes up 50% in a year especially when earnings don't change, is a momentum vehicle. Like that is literally the definition. But what happens is, to get the accelerated price moves that we got, I like to think of the world in terms of what are called cohorts. Okay. There is one cohort of gold holders that are central banks and that things like that. They're never selling, or they're not sellers. There's a second cohort of people that are sort of like central banks, but human beings that have owned it forever. They're not really ever going to sell.
Right.
There's a third cohort, which Paradigm, our editors are part of that second cohort, but the third cohort that's nailed it have been the people that have been banging the drum for debasement and that gold was finally going to see its day. And for the most part, I don't think those people are sellers. But the fourth cohort was both the opportunity and now the problem. Those are the people that kind of, I guess, were buying because of debasement and all that, but they were buying because gold was up 50% and they thought it could go up 100. These are the same people that were selling crypto to buy gold. These are the same people, we were joking about this before, that the quantum stocks and the SMR stocks, the nuclear stocks, have all been trading with gold. And so you have to accept that although the story behind gold is completely different than the story behind quantum computing and behind SMR, that fourth cohort of momentum market participants absolutely was investing and is investing in gold. And so the challenge now is that momentum stocks only go two directions. So a stock can actually go three directions, right? It can go up, it can go down, and it can kind of go flattish, consolidate. Momentum stocks don't consolidate because they have to shake out that fourth cohort. There are a lot of people that were buying gold, sure, because of the story, but they're buying gold because it was going up. And once it stops going up, you know what they do? They sell, because the reason they owned it, they were not buying it. I don't know. We can't ever know the percentage, but I would argue 10 to 50% of the buyers, maybe even more, in the last 2-3 weeks weren't buying it for the debasement story. Sure, that was in the background, but it's just like quantum computing. They're not buying it because it's the future of quantum. They're buying it because it was going up. And now we have to shake those people out. So going back to that chart, the 50-day moving average is at like 3,700, something like that. Mm-hmm. Look, I think that's in the conversation. And, it's not, when you look at that chart, you look at what happened in a similar situation back in July. We came down real hard. Well, first off, we never got a move like this. So gold peaked on April 22nd. Is it? Yeah, April 22nd. Sorry, it was in July. Yeah, April 22nd. Gold peaked, kind of had that 2-day reversal, kind of dribbled down, then did a lower high, and then at the 50-day, about 3 weeks later. By the way, in that time, the 50-day went from 30.33 to 31.62, went up $150. The reason is because we're just dropping lower numbers and bringing in higher numbers. I think the same thing will happen here. So, if I add 150 to the 50-day today, 37.11, I get 3860 is a real nice price target. I think it can take 3 to 4 weeks. I'll give that's super highly probable, like massive, massive probability. The only caveat I'll give there, and I posted this to the daily feed. I don't look at the daily because it's only on mobile. I'm mostly on desktop. I post a lot of stuff there. I do look at it, but I see where we're going to post it. I posted a quote from Bernard Baruch, who was a very famous trader. And I think I posted it to my Twitter too. And the quote goes, such a great quote: "Become more humble as the market goes your way." Mm-hmm. And you and I were just talking. The gold investors we know were not becoming more humble as the market goes their way. Right. Like, it's like the sports team that's never won anything and they win a championship, and now they're all walking around with their faces painted that they never went to a game for the previous 5 years. That's fine. That's human. And I'll come back to this one last thing. Trade a lot or don't trade at all. There's nothing wrong. I think gold goes to 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, pick your number. I think Bitcoin goes to 1 million. None of that's has changed. The only thing I warn people is certainly if you were buying gold, God forbid, with an RSI of 80, wow, that's you're going to lose money in the short term. But also just take profits, take profits, take profits. This is what we've been banging. We were banging it on rare earths. We've been banging it on gold. There's no, I mean, again, I have to step away a little bit from the tax situation because we kind of have to operate without knowing people's tax situation. Either just ignore your gold and own it for the next 10 years, or you should have been selling, slash, you probably still should be selling. Because, 38.50 at this point is almost 10% down from here. And if you own miners, that's on the commodity. If you own miners, they're going to get caught 20-30%. Why? Because while gold was up 64 or 84, whatever it was, some of these miners are up 300, 400, 500%. Many of them are very speculative too. These are money losing companies. So, physics still matter. Even in the best bull markets. And, ultimately this will be healthy, but I'll be surprised. I guess I was getting to this before. I think this could be my base case, which I think is highly probable, is 38.50, 3,900 in 3 to 5 weeks. It could get a lot uglier just because I feel this is so one way. Mind you, there's a very good chance gold's up 4% tomorrow because that's the way this stuff works. But I still stick with it. Trade a lot or don't trade at all. I wouldn't be buying gold here for sure, just because, again, if you're buying for 10 years, sure, I don't know, always buy it until it gets to 10,000. But we're here to talk about trading and how you make money consistently in every market.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you said a couple of really key things here. I think the first one is with time frames. The most dangerous thing you can do is getting stuck in between those time frames. Is going into something with an idea, it's going to be a shorter term trade, and then letting it run too far, and then end up having to cut it for break even because it works against you and you didn't get out when you should have gotten out. And I think we're going to see a lot of that from the herd as we see these retracements. And also, we're at the dangerous spot right now where people are going to get sucked back into a bigger bounce. So, if gold is down 7-8% in a day and then it's up 3-4% the next, I think we're going to see a lot of folks that are still stuck on, I got to buy this, they're going to come in and then they're going to get chewed up too once it rolls over again.
And you said it right. It's the biggest trading lesson out there. And I saw billion-dollar hedge fund managers trade 20% portfolios into 2% portfolios. And what do I mean? I saw super smart people who had awesome ideas. And if they just would have bought those stocks and walked away, they would have made 20% a year. And they ended up making 2% a year because what they did is they said, oh, I'm buying this for the long term. But then it pulled back on them. They said, well, now I need to risk manage. And so I'm cutting the position, and or the opposite side, they would buy a trade and say, well, the trade's worked against me, but I know it's a long-term value. That's the middle, and getting caught there is so destructive. But it's natural. We're actually it's so destructive, but it's literally how we're wired is to gravitate towards that. And that's what trading discipline through time. So this is why I just look at things with an RSI of 80, highest weekly RSI ever. And I'm going to throw one more thing out of gold, because I do strongly disagree. I think gold's going to 5,000, 10,000. Yeah. But we're going to have a period that's going to come up. And I think it could happen sooner rather than later, where gold's going to consolidate for 6, 9, 12 months. Yeah. And I'll tell you what the story is going to be, is they're going to be like, holy cow, gold prices went to 4,000 or 5,000. And guess what? We made more gold. Yeah. Okay. There's a supply response here. So just think about jewelry. Like, people will begin to melt down their jewelry. And so, like, it's just, I say these things as, oh, that could never happen. No, that's actually what's happened before. Nothing in the world changed the physics. I get that the debasement of the currencies are maybe worse now, but are they? I mean, I look at that chart of the debasement of the US dollar, and it seems pretty consistent for literally ever. So just don't get too, so what Bernard Baruch said, okay? Don't get too high, don't get too low, stay disciplined. When you've got big winners and you're trading, take some profits. It will allow you to buy. And by the way, that pullback to 3,800, I would buy all day long. And if the people on this call remember, back in April, we were screaming to sell gold, and I got a lot of hate, like, not true hate, but just people like, oh, Enrique hates gold. I said, I don't hate gold. I just don't buy overbought stuff. And
Right.
lo and behold, for 3 months, we were like, I love this gold chart. This is my favorite chart,
Yeah.
and we're just doing the same thing over and over. Trading ultimately, if it's done well, is very boring and predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good thing to hit on too, talking about where you would buy, because that's the big question we're getting from everyone that I've gotten over the past few days. And even now in the chat is like, okay, we're seeing this reset now. Now what? Now how do
So,
we
so
react?
can I say something too?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is what I wanted to say. Hey, John Sanchez, I just got in the chat. Um, Corrections are as much about time as they are price.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that mean? That means there's symmetry in the markets in both price and time. When we have this extended move up, so let me go back to the chart of gold. And I'm going to tell you that we have been, let's pull it up here. My internet's a little bit better. Okay. So we got, as far as I'm concerned, we went above an RSI of 70 on September 2nd. Okay.
Yeah.
That was 7 weeks ago. I would expect a consolidation to last 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Before we hit a new high. Okay. Yeah. When we did it before, gold went above the 50-day on January 10th and traded off on April 22nd. So that's about 3 months. 1, 2, 3 months. It went exactly 3 months before it broke out to a new high, 3.5 months. So it's not just about price. And sure, if gold goes to 3,300, go buy some gold. There's obviously extremes, but it's as much about time. So I wouldn't touch gold shares or miners with a 10-foot pole today. I'm more likely to go short some more. But just be patient. Just be patient. Just wait. Take a month off gold shares, and I don't know, buy coffee or copper or something. I don't know. I don't have opinions on coffee or copper. I'm just throwing those out there.
Yeah. Now that we have like a big red candle down, and this is where my mind starts flipping to, okay, where are we going to land? But also, like you said, how is gold going to consolidate? Because we got a really nice consolidation spring and summer. A sloppier consolidation could mean we're just choppier for longer. If it doesn't stay in a tight range, if it bounces around a lot, if we see a bigger drawdown. I mean, this move has been so strong. I mean, let's not discount the fact that this has been a mega move since the beginning of September that we have not seen in a very long time in the metals. If we get some downside momentum, I think we could plow right through that 50-day just to scare some people. Why not?
This is what I was saying, is that like we got super overbought in April, but wasn't this overbought?
Yeah, it wasn't like that. Yeah.
And so just respect. I'm sorry, it's the third time I've said it. Become more humble when the market's going your way. Like I have a thing. I was talking to Matt Inslee before. I said, look, when I'm crushing it, I get very nervous.
Sure.
And I just start going, okay, it feels like everything I touch is magic, Mm-hmm. Okay, let me get ready for what's going to go wrong. Perversely or paradoxically, when I'm getting my ass handed to me, I get very excited. But part of that's because I know my process and I know what I do works through time. So, I think that trading discipline is really key. And we just want, I'm all full of sayings, right? It's not what you make, it's what you keep. And we want people to keep these big fat gains they have in gold and build on them. And the best way to build on them, you're going to be a lot more willing and able to buy in 6 weeks at 39.22 if you've taken some big fat profits and you got a nice wad of cash in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like what you said too about thinking about a trade as far as what cohorts are involved in it and how they're thinking, because the cohort that's selling here doesn't care about any of these narratives. They care that their trade has moved against them.
There was only one narrative. It was going up.
Right.
And guess what? It's not going up anymore. So someone's asking about palladium and platinum. Yeah, I mean, palladium's going back, PAL, P-A-L-L is what I've traded. Palladium's going back to that 50-day moving average. Silver's going back to that 50-day moving average. So that's cool. And here's another mentality for you. If you're a long-term buy and holder and silver's going back to the 52 moving average, just chill. I'm telling you where it's going to go. What I wouldn't do is be aggressive adding here. And I guess that's my biggest message this whole time is I just wouldn't have been buying with
Yeah.
these things with RSIs above 80. It's just you're going to get, and when it happens, it's going to hurt. This is going to put a bruise on some people. Hopefully it's just their egos and not so much their wallets, but it's some of both.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're seeing it across sectors too. We've talked a lot about how, and we've gotten kind of, I don't want to say ridiculed, but some people have pushed back on the idea that it's the same chart, but it's the same chart. It's the same type of cohort moving into these trades because we see the quantum stocks that have also gone parabolic that are starting to roll over and pull back too. I mean, I've been talking about this all week where you look at like the IONQs, if it'll load, that started to top out, and we've had how many down days in a row from IONQ?
Well,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
well,
6 down
what
days. QBTS,
what
same
really
story.
cemented the momentum buyers going into gold to me was actually the downward move in crypto. And let me explain. Is you know it was clear to me a couple days last week that when crypto was getting smoked, that money was going into gold.
Yeah,
And you could see it. The gold charts all looked like the SMRs and the quantum stocks. And when I saw that crypto rotation, and who knows, by the way, that might have been the top, the short-term top in gold. That might be something to watch for in the future. Is that when crypto sees this, rotation out into gold, that could be a sign that we've just gone, a step too far.
yeah. I mean, and the market's been so hot. I mean, Matt, put yourself in the place of someone scrambling to keep up. If their crypto isn't going anywhere, but gold is going up, what are they going to do? They're going to move right over
They're
and
gonna
jump in
there,
that.
there there's a lot of FOMO right now, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other quirky thing about this market. Pull up the SPW. Okay. Just a reminder for everyone.
What am I
The
pulling up?
SPW. It's sorry. That's the index. I know how to pull up the index. Equal weight S&P. What's the ETF? RSP.
RSP. Yeah.
Yeah. So the RSP is the equal weight S&P. And let me point something out. The equal weight S&P is actually flat since July. Okay. On July 25th, it hit 187. On Friday, it was at 187. So the majority of stocks haven't really done very much. And the reality is, we've been driven by highly speculative, money losing, or metals and miners, which, by the way, most lose money. People forget to talk about that.
Sure.
And now some of the technology stuff is catching up. I mean, NVIDIA and AI was doing well, but we've seen this big move in Apple. But that causes even more rotation because then you're sitting there with high quality companies, that are beating numbers, that are growing nicely, but they're not quantum and they're not metals. And so they're plus or minus 5%. You're like, oh, gold goes up 15% a week. Why aren't I in gold? I'm missing out. Whenever you find yourself having that conversation in your head, go buy more of the good stock and just hold off on the rotate. It's very hard to
Yeah.
rotate momentum. If you find yourself rotating into momentum, you're chasing the puck. The old Wayne Gretzky quote, why were you so good? He goes, because I skate to where the puck's going, not where it's been.
Right.
And I feel like we've seen a lot of that in this market. By the way, today in the whatchamacallit, I have of our trades in the Maverick and another strategy that I run that with the same strategy. Every one of them except one is up. Those are mostly like high quality companies that we bought on pullbacks.
Right.
Every I have one company that reported numbers that were actually great numbers, but it's a little bit more complicated. Every one of those names is up. I got a screen full of green with gold, going down 5-6%.
Yeah. And speaking of that, just going with the momentum rotation that we're seeing here, like you said earlier, everybody jumping out of gold. Well, guess what they're jumping right back into today? Crypto. Crypto was red earlier this
Yeah,
morning.
Yeah, it's done a real nice reversal. Look, I still like the crypto setup. I was very impressed with our subscribers last week. In the sense, and I said it at the time, uh, I see a lot of speculation, and I see a lot of ridiculous speculation out there, like things like IonQ and Oklo. Those companies are zeros, folks. Like, so to see them with $20 billion, and if they're not zeros, they're single digit stocks. But I was impressed that our readers came with a whole bunch of charts that were pretty constructive, like things that I thought were good. But here's what
Right.
I was going to say: I still think there's great setups. You just have to get out of the momentum. I think crypto, like, one other point I was making, what I get a lot of pushback on, gold only goes up a lot in risk on markets.
Yes.
In risk off markets, gold doesn't do anything. It just doesn't go down. So the very fact, gold in this case, to me, is leading crypto. And I won't be surprised to see Bitcoin and Ethereum at new all-time highs, as we exit the year. Remember, it was last November that they went absolutely ballistic. And I think we still could get another move like that.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the reset action in Bitcoin right here and teasing below its 200-day a couple times. I mean, we had that liquidation event um, Friday during the whole Trump tweet fiasco on the last day of Nashville. That was a nice shakeout move right there. And then we saw a little bit extra downside the week after. And over the weekend, started churning higher. I love it when crypto makes these moves and dips below these shelves of support of these low prices from earlier in the summer, that 108 level that it held and then flushed really nicely right there. It feels like crypto always likes to flush before it runs. And this could be another example. I'm very tempted to double down on leveraged Ethereum since it's shaping up even better than Bitcoin right here, dropping
It's a,
down below 3,900 right there. I really like that trade heading into the end
I,
of the year.
I'm looking at Bitcoin right now. You have really nice consolidation. We bounced off the 200-day moving average. It's consolidated now for a solid. I mean, most of the year. Uh, I love this trade. I love this trade. I think both of them are setting up really, really nicely. And someone in the chat said that Bitcoin's in a liquidation. Just be careful with your terminologies. That's not a liquidation. I can show you, like, gold's in a liquidation today, by the way. That is a consolidation, which means it might have been kicked off with some liquidations, but it's basically consolidating. It's healthy. I mean, the Ethereum chart's a thing of beauty. Like, I think gold, Bitcoin 125, Ethereum 5,000. By the way, I don't know that I'd be gold 4,500 anymore, just because I think we have to. It's going to take some time,
Yeah,
but I think in Q1 we're 4,500, 5,000.
yeah, yeah, totally. And like I said, like I want to see what gold gives us. I want to see what type of consolidation we get here because it could consolidate a bunch of different ways. But I want to see how we resolve after having such a big down day like this. If we go down very fast or if it sort of just leaks lower, if we see some rebounds, that'll kind of determine how I feel about it uh,
So
moving forward.
so can I share a free idea here? One that I may buy, but I'm going to tell you it's as speculative as they come.
Yes.
Okay. So I have done this 2 or 3 times successfully with this kind of idea. And I'm just going to, before I even give you guys the ticker, I'm going to say this is the kind of thing that if you've got $10,000, go buy $100 worth of it. It's just like, look, I probably am going to buy it. The account I trade out of is probably 120,000. I might buy 5,000, but that's me. But the ticker, you ready for this one? Because I think this could be the stock's at 236 right now. I think the stock could be a 5, 10, or even $15 stock. The ticker is BYND.
Fake meat?
Fake meat. So the story here, though, is actually really simple. The company, which had a run of success and then has struggled, the company had $1 billion convert that they did 5 years ago. And just so you all know, a convertible bond is a type of debt that you would issue equity for, and they got it at 0% financing. And the problem was that was great. They sold it, and when their stock was at, I don't even know, 50 or whatever. So they had that $1 billion that they got to use, but now they had to come up with $1 billion. So the company went out last week and basically did another deal that was like 90% diluted. So like shareholders just got massively diluted. But in doing so, they took out the convert. They did another smaller convert that goes out 5 years. So now the company's got a lot of cash. They don't have any debt coming up, and the short interest in the stock is like 60%. 64% of the float is short.
Wow.
So, this is, I bought Open Door personally, which only had 26% of the float short. I bought Open Door at like, I don't know, $1.25 or something. And I literally just said to myself, I go, look, this is the kind of name that the meme army will glom onto.
Right.
Now, I took a fly. And by the way, I sold my Open Door at like $5-6. I didn't ride it all the way to 10. When it first went above 5, I sold half. And then I sold the second half at 6. I'm telling you, BYND looks a lot like, go back, pull up Open Door, and you can see the initial move back in July. The stock thrust from 77 cents to $5, and then it came back and consolidated and then took off again. So I want to be careful here, guys. This is as speculative as it gets. This is going to the casino and betting on, Black 32. But
Right.
So Patrick, I hear you that the refinancing was news for yesterday. It's also how this thing is timed. Like, it's just, it doesn't matter. Like, people are going to begin to fish this out. And the meme people are going to be fishing out with that kind of short interest. Now, mind you, some of that short interest is the convertible, but it's not 64%. So I think this is one that's a very interesting. I see a lot of people. Another thing to do here, instead of buying the stock, would be to buy put a little bit of money in out of the money options. So $3, $4 out of the money options that are 2 months out. So
I like that.
yeah, I may do this one myself. So I haven't done it, so y'all can front run me if I do it. These are the kinds of things we don't recommend these in the Maverick, because I want to have a safer profile through time. I want people to be able to build their wealth with the Maverick.
Right.
But this is the kind of thing where this is just pattern recognition. And this is a pattern that worked with Open, and I think it could work here. And the company needs to be big enough too. Like, I think you need to have a little bit of a name in the company.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like here is that the fundamental story behind Open Door actually has improved. Open Door's got a pretty neat business. Beyond, not so much. It's
Right.
It's a lot more complicated.
But I think you're right when, like, you say that, it has the meme potential because it is a well-known company, very easy to understand business, and it has a history of getting meme because it was a big trading stock back during the pandemic boom too. So, I mean, if we go back on this chart, I remember when this thing was screaming higher at some point in 2020. Yes, it's way down from its IPO, post IPO highs around like 236 here, but I mean, this thing caught on. This is the pandemic low right here. It went from 52 to 200, and I remember it was getting pretty high up there on the message boards. People were talking about it a lot. So.
And look, I just looked up the numbers too. They now have they've got some money in the bank. Let me just pull up how much money they have. They're still burning money, but they got 2, 3, 4 years of runway in front of them now. So look, this is a rental, not a whatchamacallit, not a something to hold on to. But I like this trade. This is the kind of thing. And look, you put $2 in and you make 5 on 2. That's a nice little. You don't have to put that much money to work.
Yeah, I like that. Don't put a ring on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Just date it for a little while. Have some fun.
This may be more a little bit of the 2 a.m. hookup version of a stock. Not that I'm advocating anyone do that in their personal life, but I'm saying this is probably more to that kind of situation as a stock.
This is the last call.
It can still be fun if you know what? Those could still be fun if you treat them safely and appropriately. How about that?
So there we go. Yeah, see, we're doing everything responsibly here on Top Trades. I like it a lot. And I think too, if we do see a decent consolidation here, and the markets have been chopping along since a couple Fridays ago when we got a little bit of volatility reintroduced back into the scene. I think we're still setting up for a melt up type of move
Yeah.
late in the fourth quarter, where something like this, and again, that's when seasonality takes hold. Something like this can work very, very well in late December or late November, early December. That's the time
Look,
of year when these can really pop. So
seasonality's still in play, melt up's still in play. My only thing that I worry about is to the extent we do better and better going into it, we pull it forward. So, but that's why I like crypto,
yeah,
right? Because I think that's a perfect. And remember, seasonality doesn't end on 12/31. Seasonality actually, so this is something pauses right around the holiday period and picks
hmm
up again in the first 2 weeks of January. So the
yep,
seasonal period is from literally September 21st to like January 15th.
yeah,
And it kind of doesn't do much over the holidays. You actually tend to see a little bit more of a pullback.
yeah.
So
And remember back to the big gamma squeezes in late 2020. They went right through January into early February, and then that's when we got our reset finally. Once,
well, you want to know another stock that I to watch that I get a kick out of. I'll give you a couple more that I think are really interesting. Um, Look at the move that Apple had yesterday.
yes,
And I'll tell you, if you remember what Apple did last December, go look at that
didn't go
chart.
down, just went
No,
straight.
it went up for like 40 days in a row and it
Yeah,
was super overbought. Everyone's like, by the way, Apple's flat for the year. But so what happened with Apple, this is very interesting. Last year, it was my view that Apple stock had that huge run because people were underweighted. And it's such a big weighting that if it outperforms, index managers are going to have to buy it. And that's why the stock got so overbought right into December. So
yeah,
Apple, I was listening on CNBC. I heard the Apple move. I'm like, oh, okay, we're setting up for Q4. You know
yeah.
what stock could be sneaky powerful with basically the same setup, but a much better company, in my opinion? Yes, see if you get it.
Google,
Microsoft.
Microsoft. I didn't want to.
Yeah, take a look. It's the third biggest one. So Microsoft has consolidated now since June,
Yeah,
and it's just sitting there doing nothing. I kind of love this trade.
yeah, I do too.
Let me put this way, I don't think you're going to lose money, and I think you could get a squeeze upwards. And these companies are so big. Now, I don't think that happens with Nvidia. The reason why, well, because Nvidia's already run so much.
Right.
So, and by the way, Nvidia's consolidated for 3 months also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we could see, and this would be natural and healthy, a rotation out of speculative IonQ, SMR metals, because that'll include rare earths into it, into some of these higher quality companies, including members of the Mag 7.
Yeah.
And that would make a lot of sense. That'd be very healthy for the market. So I think Microsoft is interesting. So I kind of went from one spectrum to the other, beyond, which is the most speculative you could get, Microsoft, which is maybe the least
Right.
speculative.
50-50 portfolio there, half Beyond, half Microsoft.
Yeah.
No, I like it. And I like how the mags have been looking very constructive lately without participating in a lot of the craziness out there. It feels like, we could definitely get some rotation into these guys heading into the final couple months of the year. That would be really nice. So we've talked a lot about what's happening in the market right now. Let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about what could maybe go wrong or right, uh, with some of the bigger news stories that are happening out there. I know we've been tracking, or you've been tracking a little closer than me, the government shutdown numbers, and I think we're on day 21 or 22 coming up soon. Didn't we shut down at the beginning of the month?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
October 21st, and we had a little hint that maybe things were going to get resolved this week, and that has been pushed back now. And Kalshi has us going 35 days? Is that where we're
44.
at?
44. It's actually, oh, the peak was,
44.
no, the peak was 44. It traded down to 35 yesterday, and now it's at 40. Yeah. And by the way, folks, you can go on to Kalshi and look it up. Like, it's readily available.
Well,
KALSHI. I'll put that in the chat board.
what's interesting to me is that when we first were catching wind of this shutdown happening and it became inevitable, the thing we were talking about was, okay, no big deal unless it really starts to drag out. And so far, we're 20 some days into it. And if Kalshi is correct, and it'll change, of course, but if Kalshi is correct, we're about halfway, or we're getting to be about halfway, and nobody seems to care. It's pretty impressive to me that no one's really gotten creeped out by any of this.
I was making the stupid dad joke. What happens if a government shut down in the middle of the forest and no one was there to see it? You know, did it really happen? Um, you know, I guess this is what I'm balancing. I'm very tactically bearish on the speculative stuff, but the market itself, after that Freaky Friday that we traded down to the 50-day moving average, has consolidated very nicely above the 50-day moving average. I'm looking at the S&P 500 right now, and we have a lot of very high quality companies like Microsoft that have done very little. I think earnings season is going to be excellent. It's already been very good.
Yes.
There's this little flurry around credit, but I honestly think those are one-offs. And I could go way, way into that, but I actually am not interested because I don't think it's that important, but I'm happy to. But the reason I'm not interested is because I don't think it's important. I think that we're just shaking it off. It's a sign of the resilience of the market, the seasonality, et cetera. So, you know, what could go wrong? Look, realistically, earnings season is going to be good to great. Realistically, I mean, we're not going to get any bad economic data because there's no economic data. So, you know, I'm less, that sounds stupid, but it's actually factually true. Yes. I'm less concerned about a bad jobs report or a bad inflation report. My biggest concern factually is I do think that maybe in the new year, we could have a nasty combination of the data. Let's say that we get a deal done in the new year, which is a lot like 98. We will see really nasty jobs numbers, while at the same time, if tariffs go in November, we could see some really nasty inflation numbers. And that's coming off of it. Let me explain something about seasonality and this October to December seasonality. This is the way it works, guys. There's still a ton of money that gets compensated by the year. Okay, they don't get compensated. You know, maybe it's about whether they outperform the market, but literally on 12/31, boom, there's the date they get their paycheck. Okay, all the hedge funds, by the way. And so what happens is, if the market is up like it is right now, let me just pull it up. The S&P's up year to date. Let me just get it. Year to date, the S&P is up 14.63. The S&P is up 15. If the market pulls back, people go, oh, well, I was up 15, now I'm up 12. I'm still going to make money. I'm going to buy it. They've got like cash in the bank to buy it with. If the market's down 20, believe it or not, you also kind of have the same thing. The market goes down 25 and they go, well, you know, my year's screwed anyways. I'm not going to do anything. The market is most vulnerable, and by far, when the market is flattish going into year end. Because if the market's up 3 and it goes down 2, people go, oh, I can't, whatever I do, I don't want to show a loss. But here's my point. That's the mentality that's setting in now, which is going to put a bid underneath the market. Once the calendar turns, so what happens on 12/31, you go from being up 23% year to date to being up 0. And that's why volatility injects itself in January and February. So I'm more concerned about that. And it's not that I'm not concerned. I'm kind of calm, you know, to be honest. Is like, I look at the price action. I think the speculative, so by the way, the speculative stuff and unwinding is a positive in my opinion. So the government shutdown, I'm going to be very surprised if there's anything that really puts that much of a dent into the market. I think the worst case scenario for many people is that the market's up 1 or 2% from here, but all the speculative stuff gets cut 20%. So a bunch of people that had gains will take it on the chin. but everything else does okay. Earnings are going to be good. We're pretty confident that it's going to be next quarter. And one last thing, I don't know if I posted this to the daily feed. Earnings revisions are always the worst in Q1 because you have all the resets for the years.
Right.
So, so I think that's where I'm starting to get concerned. Hey, maybe let's go to some tickers. So I see people throwing tickers in there.
Yeah, they're throwing in some trading desk trades right there. I'll hit up on those toward the end of the call. Does anybody have any tickers that they want us to check out right now? And by the way, I like while we're waiting on those to come in, I like that idea too of if we do see more of a speculative reset, why not have the hot money flow into quality? Again, toward the end of the year, like you were saying with Microsoft and the other
Well,
mags. You look at a chart, look at the
sorry.
mags right here,
Yeah.
and they're setting
Well,
up nicely. This is the Roundhill Magnificent 7 ETF. That to me looks like it's ready to break out above 65.
so what happens to momentum money too when it comes out of speculative stocks because the stocks stop going up. It's not coming out because people lost their jobs and they need the money. So that's another way of saying it will find a home. And where's it going to find a home? It'll go into Mag 7. That's a good home for it. These are great companies. These are awesome companies. Like people forget that. Like, these are some kick-ass companies. They didn't get there by accident. That
Right.
what's happened to the Mag 7. I also posted this yesterday. I had a list of the concentration, and the concentration now in the top 10 names is greater than it's ever been. When we look at the valuation versus the internet bubble, the 1970s, Japan,
Yeah.
and the Nifty 50, we're at about a 30-40% discount on a PE. My only problem is that I think that there's an AI bubble that's created a bubble in the in the earnings. This is an old Wall Street saying. So I posted this on Twitter, and people are asking me, they go, often it's not the PE, it's the E. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I go, well, price to earnings is your valuation. But, if your earnings go down 30%, your valuation is 30% higher than it looks.
Yeah.
And stocks respond most powerfully to earnings revisions, which, I mean, anyone who's watched us at all knows that that's our bread and butter. But yeah, I could see a rotation into the Mag 7 and crypto.
Yeah. Speaking of crypto, I have some good crypto charts people are asking about. I got one for Mara right here. Um, let's pull that one up because I really like how this one is setting up post the Friday Nashville shakeout that we got right there. Did kind of a fake out move above my line in the sand right here at 21-ish, and now we're creeping back into this area. I mean, I think this is one of the ones that can really go. And if it does continue to break out here, I think it goes to 30. If we see like a bigger run in crypto. And that's not the only crypto name that's on this list. I think someone asked about coin. I'm just scrolling through, everybody's posting their crypto
Yeah, I
names
like
right
crypto,
here.
so I like these. I agree. Mars is a nice setup.
And coin, you were talking about last week, if I remember correctly, coin as a nice tactical trade over something like hood right here, since it's not as extended. It's probably not as great longer term, but again, these are all right there in an area where they could really bounce and do some.
I don't know that coin isn't as great longer term. I was just saying that I think Robinhood's built a better business, but I think coin
Okay.
has a very valuable business. And look, I think coin can be a double or a triple through the next 5-10 years. Absolutely.
Yeah, and another one that came in crypto related is one I whiffed on earlier. I'm still mad about this one. Is BITF, which I attempted to trade back in July, August, and got out of right before it absolutely exploded higher. I don't really know the whole story about this guy. I see, Bitfarms drops after convertible bond sale. Okay, so um, this is definitely on the higher range of the speculative names, I would
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
for something like this. Not something that I would really, I don't know. I mean, like, this is like one of those charts where Enrique and I look at it, not to put words in your mouth, but it could go to $10 or $1.
Well,
In a
eventually,
hurry.
and in all scenarios, it's going to see the 50-day moving average in the next 3 months, and that is lower. Even if the stock hangs out, that 50-day moving average is lower than it is today at 484. So, this is all the speculative things are the same chart. more or less. And this is one of those. And I wouldn't touch it till the 50-day moving average.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
if we get a
those
number,
things
if
where,
we get another, sorry, 1 or 2 days of deflation in this, then the deflation. When I say deflation, that I'm saying like a balloon, the speculative boom deflating. Then it's on. It's really happening.
yeah.
So, and I think that very well could happen. It should happen.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one that someone asked about Halliburton. Um, Wait, that's not Halliburton. Is this not Halliburton anymore?
Which
HAL? Is that what
no,
they're at?
HL's Halliburton.
I wonder why it's pulling up that aeronautics company right there. Where's Halliburton? Give me Halliburton the stock. Thank you very
Yeah,
much. There we go.
Halliburton popping today.
Yeah, I guess it's moving on earnings right here. I think energy's in an interesting spot. I think there's a good risk reward in some energy names. I know Nuckman's been talking about energy a lot here. I think it's possible that, it continues to try to move higher, but it feels to me like every time we get any type of uptick in energy names, crude gets smacked down and then everything sort of resets. And so I think it's a frustrating play right now, but it could be near a significant turning point. I don't know if you have any interesting seasonality or other insights into energy here.
I just think, like, look, I like the contrarian play. I like the fact that everyone's given up on it, but I don't know. Time has taught me I'd rather buy them all up 50% from here on the way to going up 300
That's fair.
than, and it's not even that I think you're going to lose a lot of money. I just think you're not going to make any money. And, here's the thing. When you're in the later stages of a bull market and you see assets moving 50, 100, 200% in a year, you see things like what happened with Open and Beyond. You see things like what's happened with Talon, see things like what's happened with gold. Not doing nothing is a real opportunity cost. So,
Yeah.
if we're in a quiet market, your opportunity cost is you left 10% on the table. Here, there's things you could trade where you might be leaving 100 or 200% on the table. So I guess a long way of saying energy to me is probably just a big do nothing right now.
That's a great point. Yeah, and it all comes back to you want to be in the best stocks for right now, and maybe this isn't the best name for right now if you're leaving money on the table by ignoring some other group. BBAI. Here's one I haven't looked at in a while. I wonder what this chart's going to look like. It's going to look at quantums. Let's see. Actually holding up really well. Um, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like with what has been happening to the quantums and some of the other speculative names, if this is an area where I really want to be throwing all of my weight behind it, it does have earnings coming up. When
I
are
think
they?
you have a fantastic point though. Like the chart doesn't look nearly as speculative as the other quantum stocks, but quantum IonQ will pull this down.
Right. Yeah,
Because I would turn that around and say, well, if this is trading with quantum and all the other quantum stocks are up 400%, and this one's up 100, well, that makes this the weak member of the pack. And
right.
so, like, I sure say if IonQ is going to go down 30% to the 50-day moving average, this thing, 95% chance is not hitting new highs.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more of it. It's not something that I would be trying to buy right here.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like it better if it was breaking out above 9. I would like it better if it was breaking out above 9 and we didn't have an earnings report looming in early November too. With a company like this, earnings make me nervous because how bad are they going to be? So
well, it's funny. We throw up this chart that I put up a couple of weeks ago that all the names of the top 20 names of the Russell 3000 since the April lows, 16 of them by performance, 16 of them don't have earnings. And we're a little bit in that position macroeconomically, right? Is that we don't it's like, well, the jobs numbers can't suck because we don't have any jobs numbers. So I think from a stock market and macro perspective, that's happening a little bit. But my point about BBAI is these companies, that's actually what's helping Oklo and IonQ. What's a bad number when you don't have revenues for the next 3 years?
right.
I don't know. Whatever. You got zero revenues. You're not going to miss that.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at BBAI, what kind of numbers they have.
Yeah. You can't crush any dreams if there's no numbers to look
There's
at.
nothing there.
Everybody can sort of imagine whatever they want for the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this thing's had revenue, has some revenue, 150 million. Revenue's been going the other direction. That's a really that's probably also why it's underperformed. I honestly, here it is. The reason this is underperformed IonQ and qubits and quantum is because they actually have numbers and they've been missing them.
Yeah.
Those other ones probably would be missing numbers too if they had them, but they don't. So I'd stay away. Revenues have gone. They were expected to do for 2026 250 million for 2026 back in March. Now they're expected to do 150 million. Yuck. No,
Yeah.
thank you. That is not what you wanted. Again, if they had no revenues, fine. But yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair point. And let's see. We got a bunch of other ones I'm trying to go through.
I think some people were asking for the Maverick stocks. We'll go through all the Maverick stocks tomorrow. So I'm just not going to do that
Yeah,
here.
that's fair. Uber. That's a good one to ask about since I talk about Uber all the time. I'm going to stick with what I said last week. I want to see how it chews through and gets back to 100. I like it over $100, but I want to see how it consolidates here. I like how it pulled back here. I think this stock has great long-term potential,
Yeah.
but for a trade, I want to see a little bit more from it. It has been kind of a laggard so far this year. What are we up year to date? Only up 50% year to date. That's
Yeah,
basically down.
Yeah, it's had a good run. No, it's and not necessarily related. I will say this. You guys know I'm a big fan of FSD. There are Waymos all over Phoenix. I had like when I lived here for a period of time in the last few years, Waymos were all down in like the Southwest, like where Gilbert is and things like that. There are just Waymos everywhere here. I mean, I must see like 5, 6, 7, 8 a day. I don't really think take qualitatively out of that, but I do think. I'll say what I take qualitatively. That's why I think Uber could be a $500 stock. Is I think that as we move through the next 18, 24, 36 months, this concept as FSD begins to creep into people's lives, there's going to be this aha moment where it goes, oh, and this has got a $200 billion market cap. So putting Uber at $1 trillion is not a crazy thing, right? Like that's what happens. You go from 200 billion to $1 trillion.
Right.
I think Uber's kind of the winner because I'll get back to one of the things, it's kind of one of this is a little in the weeds, but people talk about ChatGPT and them disrupting the search market for Google. I say, well, the problem is Google's got all the customers. Not only do they have the eyeballs, but they have all the customers paying. So the person that's going to monetize AI best is going to be Google, and so to me, what does Uber have? Uber's got the customers and they've got the fleets. So I think that you're more likely to see, FSD Teslas driving on Uber, and why not? They'll do deals with them. I really like this. I might be talking myself into this one for breaking profits. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair. Let me know.
Yeah.
And then we have some folks that want to go over some of our open trades. So I'm going to close with some of our open trades in the trading desk here. We had a question about Sound. Sound is in an interesting spot right here. I like how it's mostly ignored a lot of the bigger drawdowns in some of these speculative names, and this is definitely one of those speculative names in this group right here. I think it has to hold here or we're out. I want to see a strong bounce off of 19 or I'm out of there. I mean, this reversal right here, down 2 and then down 8, that put us back to the starting gate right there. And if we can't bounce here and if it can't maintain this, then it's probably going to need to bleed off more and retest that 50-day or lower. So if it can't bounce here, I'm out. We got hit even harder on UMAC. This thing has already tested its 50-day. I need a strong bounce here. Again, if it can't regain its momentum, then it's a goner. At least for our time frame. I like how it retested here. This was also the former swing highs from July. But again, if the market doesn't give us what we want, if it doesn't bounce, then I'm going to bounce because that's how we roll on these plays. Neo has been crazy strong, and I like how, or at least over the past few days, I like how it bounced on Thursday. This was that bad PR about the Singapore lawsuit, and it opened way lower, like down here in the low 6s, and it managed to close in the green. I think that was a decent reversal. Now we just need to see it maintain. It had posted a nice Monday. It's down today. It's been a little choppy. I need to see it get back up here in the mid sevens in order for this to work for us. So I think those are most of the shorter term ones. I think K-Web is the only other one that we have open right now. And China got the hard Trump reset. K-Web down 7% on our Nashville Friday with our hangnail. That was a little bit more than a hangnail with the 7% down on that one. And again, it's riding the 50-day, but I needed to maintain the momentum and push into the mid 40s here in order for this trade to work. So that's where we stand on our open calls over at the trading desk. Let's throw in one more because I saw another ticker that I wanted to put up for you, Enrique. Let's see, where was it? Where was it? Where was it? And people are asking about the quantums, and they're all the same. The cryptos are kind of all the same too. I kind of have the same opinions about most of them. USAR,
Yeah.
is
Look,
that one I should?
no, look, USAR, we took profits. We're still holding in some of the longer term portfolios, and that kind of it describes my view. Factually, two things. Number one, I think USAR probably is going to meet that 50-day. That means that's probably closer to 22, 23 than it is, 28 on the 50-day. And I also still think USAR gets a deal done with the United States. And when that happens, it goes higher. And I guess what I was saying is if that deal would have happened at 40, I think the stock probably goes lower on the deal because it's all priced in. Well, the stock's down, the intraday high and the stock was 44. And now we're at 27. So I'm getting a lot more interested, but I wouldn't put fresh capital. I like what we've got in some of the portfolios. We've got some long-term positions in it, but I wouldn't be adding to it here. I'd be patient. I'd wait.
All right. That's a good note to end on right there. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week and we'll see where gold is. We'll see where the market is. I can't believe it's almost Halloween, almost the end of October here. Melt up season just around the corner, and we'll see what we can do with it. Thanks for joining me, Enrique. Have a good one, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.